Many Americans were going to sleep on Friday evening. That's when Israelis were waking up to sirens that began on Saturday morning at 6:35 a.m. Those were when the first sirens and warning of incoming rockets started. At 7:40 a.m., the IDF confirmed that Hamas fighters, and you haven't seen this in a long time or ever, had crossed from Gaza into southern Israel and asked residents to hide in their home. Sirens went off in Israel at 8:15, and by 8:23 a.m., Hamas had already taken hostages in southern Israel and began killing.
This was a full-scale land, sea, and air invasion. There are 800 Israelis killed in basically in a day. That, by the way, is the equivalent of 26,000 Americans if you were doing it on a pro rata basis in one day. So, and mostly civilians, some military as well. There are at least 1,100 dead in Israel and Gaza, 2,000 wounded, 9 Americans have been killed, an unknown number of American hostages taken.
I never thought that I would see this. I'm stunned that this is happening. We talk about intelligence failure, which is one of the areas that I like to focus on. And certainly there'll be time to look at what type of raw intelligence did we have? What did the analysts say? Did we share it? Did the United States share it? If they knew, former CIA director Mike Morrell is out on Twitter today saying that this is definitely not an intelligence failure from the United States because the attacks were in Israel. And that is implying that somehow we wouldn't share even if we knew. And I think that's a very troubling statement.
Hamas attacks on the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War. They attack on a holiday because they do these as significance, points of significance. Nothing they do is by accident, Jeff.
Nothing they do is by accident. They attacked on a day that is considered the happiest day of the Jewish calendar. After Yom Kippur, after judgment and repentance, we just go out and rejoice. And we have tabernacles where we actually pray for the well-being of every nation in the world with total disregard to how they treat us. And then on the final day, it's just rejoicing. And on that day, they chose to do what I'm going to say is a Holocaust-level event. We've never seen anything like this. The images are being withheld because Israel doesn't even want the images to get out there because of their own notions of what's appropriate for their own citizens to see.
What we've seen has been horrific. You can imagine what we haven't seen.
That's right. The images are beyond horrific, and the worst things are being withheld.
This has a potential of being a geopolitical nightmare. It already is, because you've got it possible that 30 countries have hostages. So we're talking about hostages. We're talking about usually 1 or 2. We're talking about possibly 200 or military.
POWs. But
200 from 30 countries. So the interplay pressure here is going to be, and they're being held in Gaza, and they're probably going to be used as human shields
by various terror groups who don't always communicate clearly, who have kind of this not clear structured leadership. You've got other groups like Hamas, and you have Palestinian Islamic Jihad. So when Israel goes in, I just want you to know it's not going to be pretty there either.
Caleb Myers is a good friend of ours, a lawyer that we've worked with for many years.
People were butchered. People were massacred. Babies were shot at point blank range in their beds, in their houses. And it was just a complete bloody massacre. Yes, unfortunately, it did take our security establishment by surprise. There are many reasons for that, which people will be accountable for eventually. But right now, we're just trying to lock arms, work together to move forward and to both neutralize this threat at the defense level, but then also to make sure that these hostages are freed.
There's an important role for America to play. America needs to reassert itself as a leader, both diplomatically, morally, but also in terms of strength, because every red line has been eradicated, and we must stand with Israel and allow Israel to do anything and everything it needs without limitation.
The United States Navy, per the president's order, has moved the Gerald Ford Strike Force Group, which is a very powerful naval flotilla. I mean, it's a huge power. And they are being moved to the border, to the Mediterranean Sea and the Suez Canal region as we speak. It'll take a day or two to get there, but they're on their way.
Important time right now as the world prepares to respond. We're seeing responses be removed from Twitter. So even initial responses from the United States changing as we speak, as we're on air. So it's a very volatile situation, both diplomatically and then on the ground in Israel. But it's also something that we have not seen on this scale that Israel has faced ever. and certainly not since the early days of the Jewish state of Israel in modern times. More Jews killed on one day in Israel. The last time that happened was the Holocaust.